You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Hello and welcome back to The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. I've just been putting some oil on the tonsils of the Tin Man from Talibang. Oliver Davies has got a great project on his hands here in New South Wales. He's building what is effectively the super pit of New South Wales. Those who have been around a while know that Alan Bond took a whole lot of old workings on the edge of Kalgoorlie. He built one big open pit gold mine and it's still raging today. This is what Oliver Davies has in mind for the Tallebung project. It's littered with old workings. He knows there's tin everywhere and he's planning to build a very big open pit tin mine that will meet the growing demand for tin from high technology industries. Oliver likes to remind us it's not about making soup cans anymore. Tin is now a highly demanded metal because of its high technology uses. Talibang has already had mineralisation outlined over 2.3 kilometres and Ollie tells us it's open in every direction. The drill bit is absolutely delivering fantastic results. They just got some great results from ore sorting. The company's working on resource updates, feasibility studies, and I have to say, if you're not excited about tin before this podcast, I reckon there's every chance you'll want to know more when you listen to Ollie talk about this project. Ollie, you're fast getting the reputation as the Tin Man of Talibang. You're sitting here with a bit of a smile on your face with good reason, I suspect. After having worked pretty hard for a while, tin is actually really coming back into fashion, and it looks like you're really starting to build a project with genuine scale at Talibang.
Absolutely, Paul. Yeah, it's been a long-known tin mining field at Talibang, but we're just drilling underneath all these old workings, finding a lot more tin. And now, quite surprisingly, as we're actually getting further afield from where the old workings are, we're actually finding some higher grade zones now, which are really showing us that this deposit could be much larger than we initially thought, and we're continuing to expand it with more drilling.
I mean, who would have thought that tin is going to be so fashionable again? I mean, I think at a recent mining conference you chastised me because I dared to question how many soup cans you could make out of your deposit, and that wasn't really the metric you thought was really that suitable these days. Of course, tin now is famous for its use in a whole range of high technology applications and the like. So soup tins probably really aren't the key target for your production. But let's go through what you've got at Talibang, because I think people think of tin as being relatively boutique, but in fact, you've got a little bit of the, taking on a bit of the Alan Bonds like he did in the early days at the super pit where, you know, Bondy had the idea of aggregating all the old historic workings in Kalgoorlie and forming what we now know as the super pit. What you're really doing at Talibang is similar on a slightly smaller scale.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of old workings around Talibang. We've always known that there's significant scale to it just from how big all of the old workings are. And now sort of under one ownership, being able to drill in underneath that, consolidate that into a very large bulk tonnage mining target and combining it with some modern technologies as well has really opened the door to what is I think a terrific tin project. And also given the historic mining activity, the very simple flow sheet, these sorts of things all open it up to be very capital efficient.
So you're aiming to build one big open pit that will obviously take out all these historic workings, as you say, a bulk mining open pit. At one level, it's about as simple as it gets, isn't it? It is, as I say, super pit style gold mining for tin.
Absolutely, yeah. And the rock itself's all very simple, and we've had a long conviction on this project as well. So we're very advanced in doing all of the environmental approvals and things, and knocking that stuff over early so that we can develop this project as quickly as possible.
Right, so take us through the resource you've got, and you say in recent communication you expect to grow the resource, so why should we be so confident about that?
Well, we've already got a lot of historic workings that we haven't drilled very well. As we drill under those, of course, we find more tin there. The large part of the historic workings are very shallow. We've drilled somewhere near 300 holes now at Talibang, and we actually don't think we've intercepted any historic workings. So there's very minimal depletion from that old mining, but it does show us the scale of the system, the footprint of it, if you like. And now we're drilling further afield from that, and we're even finding higher grade tin further afield. So it's telling us that not only traditionally speaking, the old timers generally found the best bits, but in this case, it looks like we're starting to find the best bits of this system now. And we're quite excited by what we're finding.
So what are the dynamics of the pit, lengthwise, depthwise, that you would eye at the moment?
The deposit now is about 2 kilometres long. It's about 300 or 400 metres wide at least. And we're just continuing to push that out. We We don't really know where the edges of the pit will be at this stage. We found some areas that we think aren't as well mineralised as others, but generally speaking, this deposit's wide open, and particularly with some exciting hits. We hit 3 metres at over 600 grams silver and near 1% tin right on the southeastern margin of our latest drilling. So intercepts like that show us that this system is incredibly rich.
So a lot of these results are outside the existing resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Well and truly outside of it.
So should we see a resource update coming down the track?
We'll do one internally just to inform our next drilling, and then come and we may update our exploration target as well. We've currently got a 23 to 32 million tonne exploration target, but as I said, we've found a lot of tin further afield than we anticipated, and so that exploration target has grown significantly with this drilling, and so putting an announcement out around that to talk about how much bigger we think we're making this field, I think will be quite important. And also then talking about these high grade pods that we make that could be really, really useful as sort of higher grade starter.
So does this mean that the feasibility studies, the economics and the mine life, annual production rate, the like, are they sort of very much works in progress? They're moving targets as you grow the known parameters of the discovery?
They are, yeah. And I think all in a very, very positive way. We first really looked back at this project in about 3 or 4 years ago, and the more we've worked on it, the better it's got. And I think that's been in part exemplified by our recent ore sorting results. You know, we started off with sort of a 3 or 4 times upgrade in ore sorting, and as the ore sorting guys have gotten more accustomed to our mineralisation and how well suited it is to the technology, we've gone from a 3 or 4 times upgrade to now announcing on our 75 tonne bulk sample that we're getting an over 13 times upgrade on average across the deposit. So it's just getting better.
So the fees you expect to be completed by when?
Early next year is where we're anticipating. Yeah. The only thing holding that back now is just getting the confidence in the resource. So more drilling's what we need.
Infill drilling in part?
Infill drilling and to flesh out some of these new higher grade zones we're finding. And that's quite an exciting process for us because every time we turn and we work on this project, it gets better and better.
So can you give us some sort of insight? I appreciate the feasibility study is still a work in progress, as we say, but is it possible to give us some sort of insight into sort of mine life and production rates? What sort of magnitude and where you'd fit in the scale of things?
We think Talibang's a sort of project that could be producing somewhere around 1% of world tin. So we think it's a very significant scale. And that's what we're going to bore out more with this drilling, keep expanding it. Already we've got about 23,000 tonne of tin in the resource.
Now to give you a long mine life, right?
Yeah, that'd give us about 5 years mine life,
yep.
Maybe a little bit longer. But that resource was completed with about 150 holes drilled. We've now taken that to 300-400 holes now in the deposit. And so the deposit's naturally going to be a lot bigger for that. The higher grade zones we've found are going to very quickly add tons of tin into that resource as well. And so all of it's building well to really push this project into being.
So is a 10-year life on the cards?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's what we'll be aiming for.
Yeah, and then you get to strike that optimum balance between growing the mine life and the production rate.
Yeah, that's right. And what's key for us too is trying to flesh out some of these higher grade zones and a lot of them are very close to surface. That intercept I mentioned earlier that's down in the southeast corner of the deposit, that's about 20 metres down. So this stuff's incredibly shallow, very, very ideal for open pit. And
the super pit analogies just keep flowing, don't they? It is like the Kalgoorlie super pit of New South Wales.
It's the tin equivalent, yeah. And we're that's been part of our recent drilling program too. We've actually shortened up the holes to only drill down about 120 metres because we keep expanding it laterally and finding it shallow. We can look for it deeper later, but that's going to be the really cheap stuff to mine.
Now, this ore sorting that you referred to, if you could explain to us what ore sorting is and why you're so excited about these results.
The quite overlooked aspect of ore sorting is that in tin it's ubiquitous. Basically every hard rock tin mine in the world has an ore sorter running on it. Renison down in Tasmania, Australia's largest tin mine, they've got 3 ore sorters down there. The Renison mineralisation is not particularly well suited to ore sorting, but still they do a great job there. And all of our feedback, we went down and visited Renison a little while ago to look at how the ore sorters were performing and talk to the Mets themselves, and they're saying that it's one of the best bits of kit they have in that plant, and that is quite a complicated plant. But for us, we've got a really simple ore body. We've got very nice large chunks of cassiterite tin, and that means that they're very discrete. The ore sorter is able to see them very easily using X-rays, and then it's able to eject all of the rocks that have tin, and everything else gets rejected. And we've taken the results from a 5 times upgrade to over 13 times upgrade. And what that means practically is that if we had, with a 5 times upgrade, we're getting rid of 80% of the mass. And that means that any CapEx and downstream processing, we're only looking at 20% of what we had to deal with previously. Now we're getting rid of over 90% of the mass with this recent test work and these improvements we've made on the process. And that means that an 80 to 90% doesn't sound too much of a change, but instead of dealing with 20%, we're now dealing with less than 10%.
So you're putting a lot less waste into the mill.
Yeah, exactly right. And it means the mill's running on high grade material. And then we can also afford to work a lot harder in our recoveries through the mill as well, because we've got very high value dirt going through.
Now this is all taking place, this super pit, tin super pit that we're talking about here, is all taking place against a backdrop of a strengthening tin market?
Yeah, the tin market, the tin price is probably the exemplifier of what's happening in the tin market, and the tin price has been very strong. It's been trading more than twice nickel for a long time, and about 3.5 times the copper price. So very valuable commodity.
What's driving it?
The key things I think are supply constraints. China in particular is looking more and more overseas to get tin concentrates. That's been driving prices strongly, and then as well the growing demand. Tin is vital for holding all electronics together as a solder, and so as we see more demand for tin from EVs, AI, everything that needs electronics is needing more tin. So tin is really at the forefront of all of these new technologies.
Right, so you've got both a favourable supply scenario and growing demand on your side, right? So and where do you see the share price catalyst over the next 6 to 12 months? What do you think is going to drive the stock from here? You've got a market cap of circa $50 million. Obviously, still plenty of upside there. You're not in the big league yet. So what's going to push this?
I think the key things are really showing the scale that we have at Talibang. We've known it's there for a long time, and it's really exciting now to be well funded to get all this drilling done, flesh out that scale well, look at these new higher grade zones that we're discovering, which are quite exciting. They sort of put in terms of project economics, some of these shallow higher grade zones, they mean we can pay back things like CapEx in months rather than years, and really get this project cash flow positive very quickly. So continuing to flesh out the advantages that we have at Talibang are going to be key for us to show what a terrific project we have, and on the backdrop of this very strong tin price.
Now you've got a pretty high-powered board behind you. The chairman, Norm Seckold, great track record.
They're very lucky to be working with a board like this. I think they're not only very high-powered people in their own right. Norm Seckold's got He's a very modest man, but he does have over 40 years of delivering success on these sorts of projects.
He's created some vast sums of wealth for shareholders over the years, hasn't he?
He's done a terrific job, and then we've got Remus Karaitis and Richard Hill, who, amongst other things, they started Aurelia Metals. And the Hera mine is actually one of the closest mines to Talibang, and they got that into production about 10 years ago or so. And
so they're all mining men.
Yeah, they're all mining men.
They've all been there and done it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and what's better is in this exact area too. So very good reputations, not just in the market broadly, but also in the community in the area that we work in.
Now you've just raised dough, so you're armed and dangerous.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we'll run straight into putting that into a drilling program. We'll continue our bulk sampling work as well. Already the ore sorting results have been excellent. We'll now run that through a gravity plant. We'll make a saleable tin concentrate that then we can take to offtake marketers and that sort of thing to start talking about this is what we're going to be producing. And given that tightness in the tin market, the tin market has been taking lower grade concentrates. And what we're looking at producing is a very high grade, high purity concentrate, which is really sought after in the tin market for blending. So what we're making is a really important concentrate in a number of levels, not just more tin, but also some really high quality concentrate for blending, so very sought after.
So let's cut to the chase. When do you reckon you'll be producing tin?
Oh, look, I would love to be producing tin by 2027, yep. But there's a few hurdles to get through yet, and one of the things that has held us back this year has actually been the success we've had in exploration. Showing that there's higher grade zones further afield has meant we've had to do a bit more drilling than
it's a moving target.
thought. Yeah, that's made it a bit tricky.
A moving feast, as they say.
But it means it's getting better, and in the long run we'll be better for it. But yeah, in the meantime, there's a bit more drilling to do, and we're quite excited to see the results.
Right. Wally, this sounds fantastic. I think you've obviously onto a real winner there. It's always dangerous to liken exploration to shooting fish in a barrel, but it does sound like you've got the next best thing. Look forward to seeing how this goes over the next 6 months.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for your time.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.